Jampas weekdays 5 to 8 p.m. only on Massive Metro.
La Massive Metro and Nklomeno Khanyi. And yeah, we are having a conversation right now with Uputu Sizwe Maphindani. It's 18:45 njengamanje mawuqeda ukufika, and of course it is a Human Rights Day, so yeah, we are tackling the necessary thing. Incwadi kaBhutu Sizwe Maphindani, it's a very interesting topic.
The topic is controversial.
It says I'm still a Kaffir. That is the title of the book. Now Kaffir comes from the Arabic word kufari, and of course this was a word that was used by the Arabs when they were trading with the white people in North, both Eastern and Western Africa, and because they were non-believers in the following Islam, and then they were called makufari, even though they were trading with them, which Islam allows. And then eventually when those white people eventually got a full hold of South Africa, because we were not prepared to believe in their Christianity, then we associated with murder and rape and land grabbing, and then they just tweaked it a bit and called it Kaffir. Mind you, this was the time when the Afrikaans language was being born anyway. Because a bunch of rebels from Europe, from different nations, Dutch, French and stuff, decided to congregate and then form their own nation, and that's the birth of the Afrikaner people. Yes. So siyambona uKaffir ukuthi uphuma up. Welcome to the show, Puti.
Ngiyabonga.
Kunjani mfethu?
Ngiyaphila.
Hey Tada, ungasabi mfethu, ungasabi.
No, I'm alive. Yeah.
Yo, lencwadi le, what inspired this?
First, it will make sense if I give a historical context of the word Kaffir here in South Africa.
Yeah.
So, a historical reference of the word Kaffir in South Africa was used for those who were used as subjects, objects, and natural resources in the building, emulsification, and the development of a system that was socially engineered to benefit white people. That system is known as white supremacy, and the subjects or natural resources were none other than the black nation. A nation which history is written in the blood and backs of black men and black women. So after 342 years of slave labor, mass incarceration, dehumanization, indoctrination, the raping and the killing of the black people, today we are heightening our own demise and shaming. And we are doing all that because although we still say we are in a free democracy or in a free society, I still belong to a race that called that's blessing, a race that called houses and cars success, a race that spends 65% of their salaries on car installments, a race that rapes, kills and hates itself, a race that has no economics philosophy of its own, a race that celebrates European holidays like Valentine's Day, etc. A race that takes pride in going to prison, a race that has no group psychology, a race that slays for social media likes. A race that regards its history as the past has nothing to do with it. And with all of that being said, I have concluded that I'm still a Kaffir.
Yeah. I was still lang are you a poet?
No.
We thought what we author as balai in what is whatever. Is that poetry?
No.
I think it's an extract from the book, probably.
Yes, it's an extract from the book. It's not a poetry book, it's a non-fiction material. And the reason why I'm actually putting it in this way is because this is a 911 letter to the black nation that is black youth in an era of psychological remote control. Because although you may think you are free, if there is a psychologically engineered process to get black people killing, hating, and raping itself, then you're still in another form of colonialism. And up until, this is what Dr. Khalid Mohammed said, that you're a slave to your rent, you're a slave to your car bill, you're a slave to your telephone bill as well. So and
bond,
up until
medical aid, all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So up until you admit that you're a slave, you'll never be able to come together and change that. So the reason why my book is the way it is because it's more urgent, and I'm actually making a call to black people.
But you must understand that when it comes to the so-called modern world, black South Africans, let me just say Southern Africa, people are like 400 years behind of this engineered ideas to destroy a nation anyway. And if you look into in Northern Africa, you can go as far back as people have been colonized by as far back as the rule of the Romans, at the time of Julius Caesar. Like Africa has always been up for grabs. So more bigger countries like Sudan and stuff, you're looking at close to 1,000 years or more of being colonized and being ruled by other people. There's too many cities in Africa that have exchanged hands over the years, like biblical old, even far before Jesus Christ. And I'll agree with you, Guti. Africa is being sucked off our resources, and of course, in a way, we're being treated as slaves. But then again, at some point, we need to come up with some kind of ikambi, and so we can talk about these things. We can talk about what is happening to us as a people. We can talk about the war and slavery in Sudan. Like I find myself more and more being unable to talk about South Africa alone because I'm of other things that are happening outside this country, and why people end up in South Africa anyway. Because I always say we're the modern day Timbuktu, but where is Ikambi? Because at some point we have to find a solution. I don't want to have like a soccer conversation, like who scored, who did 18, who blew what whistle and what, because people can watch one game and go on forever and just talk and talk and talk until the next game. So where is the solution?
I like the context for which the question is being asked, and it's the most important question indeed. But you see, before you can actually come to say there's something to solve, if people believe that there's no problem, your solution is equally useless. So now, although our colonization lasted for over 400 years throughout Africa and even in Black America, so the number one tool, the number one resource used, or the number one weapon in mass destruction is one's mind. So your mind is your number one resource, and white supremacy cannot exist or survive without functionally miseducating black people about the knowledge of self. In order to defeat a nation, you need to control the history and the knowledge of their self, so that whenever they make reference to their own black redemption, they'll always think about all their historical slavery and all of that. But so if we have to actually come with a solution to the black condition, we need to look at the mind of the black man, because you can't tell me the black man thinks straight. Look at us here. We spend our weekdays in corporation, 40 hours in between. And therefore we spend our weekends in taverns drinking. Whilst they are planning each and every time you see them in a cricket field, they are planning every day. And each time you go to work, they are actually executing. So first of all is for us to focus on the mind, on miseducation, dehumanizing, and indoctrination. That is a solution. To tell you that there is a problem with you, outline the actual condition and what is happening, to prove, although we may root history a little bit, that just to make you aware of who you were before the white man came into Africa. Because the reason why it becomes difficult for people to understand that they are enslaved is that black people think before the white man came into Africa, they were singing and dancing with markets, for which is not true. Before you came, black people don't even know about the history of Mansa Musa. So if you connect people to that cognitive autonomy of greatness, when we now talk about Africa's destiny, Africa's reincarnation, it will then make sense to black people to therefore organize. Because we're the only people who doesn't have an economic philosophy. It has nothing to do with enslavement or anything. Why should each time our money don't circulate at all? Jews' money circulate 18 to 19 times before it goes to other community. Asian money bounces 14 to 15 times before it goes to other communities. White money bounces more than 20 times before it goes to other communities. It sounds
like you're blaming black people somehow.
No, I'm not blaming
I'm just saying that you sound very angry, and you sound like it feels like you're just saying we are fools. Because you're just talking here and you're not coming up with a solution, and everything that you say there we already know. So that's why I said to you, come up with a solution, because we know of the greatest, most richest person ever to live in the history of Africa. Okay, we know about Mapungu. We know about the Lemba people were trading with the Chinese and the Persians some 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. We know all of that. When you walk in here, you should know, we know about anthropology and the history of our people. But it looks like you're just venting and you're just attacking black people, and it's beginning to sound tired. My question to you was like, what is the solution? The reason why people are talking to Baba Cyril Ramaphosa, it's because they know what happened under apartheid, and then what happened under 10 years of Babu Jacob Zuma ruling this country. They know what happened during Thabo Mbeki. They know what happened during Mandela. We know all of that. Like you can't teach us that anymore. No. I'm saying that, what is the solution?
Okay.
We know that white people plan. We know that they sit and talk. We know that they probably having a poikikos in a field somewhere today. We know all of that. We know that there are people in farms who put the South African flag on the floor and wipe their feet on it and salute to the old apartheid flag. We are aware of all of that. My question is, I thought we were going maybe industrial and economy, and then the question would be, then what education would we give to a child born today in South Africa so that child can have all your ideas you have now in mind automatically?
Okay.
Yes.
First, I'd like to repeat. Maybe it will make more sense. When I say the number one problem, the target that we need to focus on right now, this is a solution. Re-education is a solution because it is true, you are well aware, like you're saying, black people know that there's functional miseducation. But outlining functional miseducation of which black people are aware of without rooting out solution, well, it is equally pessimistic. So my call to black people is that let's organize. Part of our organizing is to rewriting and telling our own stories, controlling our own media concepts. And right now we need to make sure that we deal with concepts that are actually aimed at fueling gangster behavior, character in the black community. Because television, if the television is being controlled in a black country by another race, whilst this is our own country, we ought to control that. We ought to start questioning everything that is playing on television, because television is a psychological remote control mechanism. We need to control the media system. We need to control our information. We need to control the educational system and write our own syllabuses to re-educate our black babies. Right now you have got the educational system that have somebody going to school for 12 years. And then after the schooling system, they go into university. They are treated like an empty vessel. We need to question exactly what was the 12 years for. So therefore, the educational system should be changed in order to be aligned with the economy.
My brother, I think we all have those problems, and they're not uniquely yours. It's how we view South Africa and Africa as a whole. So I'm going to play one song and give you a chance to think this through. And then when we come back and then we talk about then how do we aid that situation.
Only on Massive Metro.